Hi, my name is Torrey. For me, these have been some very difficult last 4 years. I've had 2 eye surgeries and a headache that has gone on for almost 4 years that I think finally is in the process of being resolved thanks to these good doctors and surgeries. But it's interesting, even as I have struggled with vision, the Lord's opened up to me, I believe, a vision that I'm happy to share something more with you about here today. A vision of what the Lord is doing around the world. In Mongolia, for example, where I was recently, there was no church back in 1989. 20-some years later, there are over 600 churches, and the church is relevant and it's expanding and it's meeting the needs of youth and of drug addicts. In Vietnam, the church there too, despite much persecution, is rapidly growing. In that country of 90 million people, it's now 12% Christian. I was talking with the lead pastor of a major church there, and he said, Torrey, we still get beat up. My elders and leaders and I, we get mugged by the government thugs on a very regular basis. But then he laughed and he said, right after that, they will come to us and say, would you come into our prisons and teach our guards and our inmates about this Jesus thing? Because we notice that it is only you Christians that have a response to the critical issues of drug abuse. Where is the fastest growing church in the world right now? It's Iran. And where perhaps is one of the largest churches in the world right now? China. No doubt 70 million people who are followers of Jesus Christ, many of them too at great sacrifice to themselves. And in West Africa, a place where my wife and children and I lived for 15 years, the church is rapidly growing. People are looking beyond Islam. They're saying we're fed up with the violence and the hypocrisy of Islam. Questions are being provoked to which Jesus is the answer. Recently in Lebanon, I visited a church that was led by a Pastor George, as he is called. 2 years ago, there were only 20 people in his church. And now there are 300 people in his church because as refugees from Syria, they are now in Lebanon and they are just curious about the love that they are receiving. We interviewed one of them and he said, I am here because no one in all my life has ever loved me like Pastor George. From country to country, in northern Iraq, we are seeing churches that are actively involved in serving Muslims and Christians and Yazidis, people who are refugees, and the church is stepping in to meet the needs of people. In Matthew chapter 16, Jesus says, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And in Matthew chapter 24, he says, the gospel will be preached to all countries of the world. This is the news behind the headlines that we need to hear. The interesting thing is, I see that the vision that we see in these other countries is the same vision that we have here at Grace. Good things are happening here at Grace, things that I'm so excited about as an elder here, things that are much in keeping with the most exciting things going on around the world, with lives being changed and Jesus being lifted up.